Hi everyone, Stephen Lee here. In this video, I'm going to be going over the frequently asked questions in regard to the stimulus payment, including questions like, if you're in prison, do you qualify for the stimulus payment? If you had a deceased spouse in 2019 or 2020, or a deceased family member, do they qualify for a stimulus payment? As well as if you owe any taxes to the federal or state government, will your stimulus payment be garnished or reduced? I'm going to answer all of those questions, as well as some very important reminders in regards to stimulus payments if you have not yet received yours. So let's get right into it. The first one is, if you received an advance payment that exceeds the amount of your eligible credit when filing your 2020 income tax return, you will not be required to repay any amount of that payment. Okay, so let's say when you're filing your 2020 return and it ends up that you received more stimulus payment than you should have received based on your 2020 return. Because remember, stimulus payments are based on your 2018 or 2019 return, but in 2020, that's where the recovery rebate exists, right? So let's say you're filling out your 2020 return and your income is a lot higher than it was in 2019, or based on your filing status, you were not eligible, or you received more of a stimulus payment than you should have based on 2020 qualifiers, then you will not have to repay back what you received, the overage. The next one is, if the amount of the credit on the taxpayer's 2020 tax return exceeds the amount of the advance payment received, the taxpayer will be able to receive the difference as a refundable credit. Okay, so let's say the stimulus payments that you received was less than what you're eligible for in 2020 based on that recovery rebate worksheet, then you'll be able to receive the difference, right, as a refundable tax credit. Okay. In terms of the term eligible individual, right? Eligible individual for a stimulus payment, right? Let's go over some of the most frequently ones is ineligible, right? Ineligible individuals include a non-resident alien, okay? A non-resident alien is not eligible for a stimulus payment. Anyone who qualifies as another person's dependent, right? If you're being claimed as a dependent on another person's tax return, you're ineligible for a stimulus payment, as well as estates or trust, right? Estates or trust are not eligible for their own individual stimulus payment. Remember, once again, the recovery rebate credit is going to be claimable on your 2020 income tax return. Many individuals have asked me, if I have not filed in the past or I'm not required to file, should I still file a 2020 return if I did not receive a qualified stimulus payment? My answer to that is yes. I would file a 2020 income tax return, whether it's the 1040 easy or the 1040 regular, to claim your recovery rebate credit if you're eligible. Right. Once again, also another thing, important note here is, in general, taxpayers without an eligible valid social security number are not eligible for the stimulus payment. Okay. Once again, an ITIN will not qualify, but you need to have a eligible social security number unless you're a child or a minor. Okay. The next one, the last one here is married taxpayers filing jointly, where one spouse has a social security number, but the other does not. Only one spouse is eligible for the stimulus payment, okay? The other will not be eligible. In addition, if you have children with eligible or valid social security numbers, they will also be eligible for stimulus payment, okay? So this is the case where you're married filing jointly, one spouse has a valid social security number, and they have children, or you don't have children, but the other spouse does not have a valid social security number. Only the spouse or only the individual with a valid social security number will be eligible for the stimulus payment. So let's go right into the most frequently asked questions. Number one is, will my stimulus payment be reduced or offset if I owe taxes, whether to the federal or state, or if I owe money to any other debt collection agencies, right? So if you owe any taxes from previously filed tax returns, or you're on an installment agreement with the IRS or your state government, or if you have other debt outstanding, right? Will they be able to take away from your stimulus payment? The answer is no. Remember, the stimulus payment will not be offset for any federal or state debt and is protected from any type of garnishment. Okay, so you're okay. Your stimulus payments should not be reduced for any taxes owed for previous years or for any debt outstanding. Number two is, will my payments be offset if my spouse or I owe past due child support. So if either you or your spouse owe child support, will your stimulus payments be garnished? The answer is no. They will not be offset once again by any federal or state debt and protected from garnishments, okay? The third most frequently asked question is, will a deceased individual receive the payment? Once again, if someone that passed away, will they be eligible for the payment? This is what the IRS says. A payment won't be issued to someone who died before January 1st, 2020. So if they died before January 1st, 2020, they will not be eligible for the payment. If you filed a joint return in 2019 and your spouse died before January 1st, 2020, you won't receive a $600 payment or that $1,200 payment for your deceased spouse, okay? But you'll still be eligible for that individual stimulus payment that you might be receiving, $600 or $1,200, right? And $600 for any qualifying children, okay? As long as you meet all the other eligibility requirements, right? Filing status, as well as income and number of dependents, right? All right? Remember, for those of you who for those individuals that actually died in 2020, the recovery rebate credit may be claimed on line 30 of their 2020 income tax return. So even if someone passed away in your household, they still need to file a final income tax return in the year they passed away. And if they were eligible for the rebate or the stimulus payment, but they did not receive one, they should be able to claim it through the recovery rebate credit, okay, on their 2020 final income tax return. And lastly, if someone is in prison or incarcerated, are they eligible for the payment? Yes, as long as the imprisoned individual met all other eligibility requirements, right? And they filed a 2019 tax return that was processed by the IRS, or if they use the non-filers enter payment info here tool prior to November 22nd, 2020, then that person who is incarcerated or in prison is eligible for a stimulus payment. If they did not receive it, but they were eligible, they can claim it through the 2020 recovery rebate credit, okay? But they need to file a 2020 income tax return, okay? So they can still claim it as long as they file a 2020 income tax return and put the eligible amount on line 30 after they've completed the recovery rebate worksheet. If you're looking for steps on how to fill out the recovery rebate worksheet, I'll leave a link in the info card above to that video where I actually walk through step by step with an example of how to fill out that recovery rebate worksheet. Thank you for watching, and I wish you a wonderful day. Bye.